attention. Devil's hide behind redemption. Honesty is a one-way gate to hell.
Gentle reminder to the participants, make sure to have a water bottle beside you, maybe a candy bar or two. It will help you uh, calm your nerves. We'll be live streaming the debate, so please have a water bottle around just to sip some. Uh, Perfect. Welcome to the last quarterfinal of the biannual debating league, brought to you by the Debaters Guild. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Abhishek Nitin Kumar, and I'll be your moderator for today. We've debated about crises all around the world through the course of the league. Today, we take a trip to Mexico. Presenting to you the motion, this House believes that the Mexican government should offer immunity to drug cartels from economic crimes in exchange for not targeting the police, military, or civilians. Introducing our judge for this debate, Mr. Jaydev Balaji. Mr. Jaydev Balaji is a grade 11 student who comes with tremendous amounts of experience in debating and MUNs. He's a very passionate debater and strives to improve his debating and judging skills in every event. He has chaired many MUNs and has won countless awards and accolades. He aspires to become a commercial pilot and he's very passionate about astrophysics and quantum mechanics. He's a die-hard fan of Breaking Bad, and he believes that one does not need to work hard to aspire and excel, but needs to work smartly to navigate through the hardships this society offers to everyone. His debating journey started with A to Z creativity, and from there on, there was no turning back. He was also part of Warhorse's Project Delta, which led him into MUNs. It is an honor to have you adjudicate this quarterfinal debate, Mr. Jaydev.
Thank you so much.
All right, that being said, let us move on. As we all know, to the audience watching at home, this is a 2v2 debate. Let us go over the format once. The first round will be having constructive arguments. In this round, we'll have 4 speeches presented to us. Proposition first speaker will present their opening statements, followed by opposition first speaker, after which proposition second speaker will present their speech, followed by opposition second speaker. In this round, there will be an individual speaker time of 3 minutes per speech. Our second round, which is a novel concept that the Debaters Guild has invented and contributed to the world of debating. This round is called the Parley round. This was made to resemble a civil dialogue between debaters or just two people in general. Especially in this round, 2 participants, one from team proposition and one from team opposition, are to have an open conversation to argue the resolutions motion. This round as a whole has a maximum time limit of 5 minutes and is subject to change per the adjudicator's discretion. Please note that there is no individual speaker time in the Parley round. Moving on to the third round is the rebuttal round. This is a classic rebuttal round wherein each speaker, one from the proposition and one from the opposition, will be given 3 minutes to present their rebuttals. Please note that the speaker present in the Parley round cannot present the rebuttal round. There can be no constructives that are made in the rebuttal round. The teams are required to solely rebut each other. In this round, proposition speaker goes first, followed by opposition speaker. The fourth round is a judges questioning round. In this round, the adjudicator will ask a maximum of 3 questions to each team. Each team has 4 minutes to formulate and answer the questions. Please note, each team has 4 minutes to formulate and answer the questions. Adjudicator, we also request you to type out the questions in the chat box so that it's easier for everybody. In addition to these questions, I as the moderator might be posing a couple of questions to either team if time permits. To the audience watching us live on YouTube, the questions will be posted on the live chat, so feel free to try and answer these questions. We come to the final round, which will be the closing statements. Each team will be given 1.5 minutes to present their closing statements. In this round, the opposition presents the closing remarks first, followed by the proposition. We will go over the format of each round when we start the debate. So, that being said, can we start the debate? Can I get a yes from somebody?
Yes, let's go.
All right, let's go. The first round, constructive arguments. I now look to the proposition first speaker to open their case.
Good evening, everybody. I'll be the first speaker, and my name is Deepthi, and I'm from the proposition team. And here I begin. The Mexican drug war, as led by the US government, has resulted in an outgoing asymmetric fight between the Mexican government and the drug traffickers. Now, since the 1970s, the cross-border trade in illegal drugs through numerous organized cartel formations has brought both immense profit as well as vast amount of destruction to both Mexico as well as other countries and their economies. Some estimates place that the annual profits of Mexico's drug trade at around 3% to 4% of the country's GDP, and to the order of $30 billion per year. And around 500,000 people are said to have a substantial amount of their income through this particular business. This was reported by the Economic Times newspaper 2017. The business, however, is not without its risks and costs. Now, since Mexico's President Felipe Calderon effectively declared a war against the drug cartels in 2006, large amount of people have lost their lives. The world records on drug-related violence states that in the beginning of the year 2013, the death toll due to drug violence was 60,000 in Mexico. However, by the end of the same year, it reached up to 120,000, not including the 27,000 missing cases and various other cases which were not even reported. It is thus a socio-economic problem that must be dealt with the best interest of both Mexico as well as Mexicans. While legitimizing the illegal drug flow or punishing the suppliers and the users cannot be the only solution. We need a mix of both to reform this industry. I therefore respectfully submit the organized and legalized flow of these drugs to the users to be permitted by providing drug cartels with immunity against economic crimes, provided they do not harm the citizens, the military, and the police, for including increased taxation for both consumption and or export of these drugs. For one, the government revenue should not be disrupted. Two, to develop better controls over the illegal firearms and ammunitions and import of explosive and production, so that we can reduce the atrocities and improve human rights to those involved in this field. Three, to develop controls in money laundering to dissuade this parallel economy that runs in Mexico. Four, to improve awareness among the citizens about the ill effects of this trade. And five, promote international efforts on alternate and safe use of these drugs for the welfare of people across the country, etc. This particular proposition helps the government to have some control over the drug cartels, which they have not been having for so long, by using brute force, as that has led and cost a lot of lives, including civilians. I conclude by saying that this proposition will help the government to curb this issue as soon as possible and help the citizens and save the lives of many. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. I now look to the opposition first speaker to open their case.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am Matilaj.
Just a minute. I'm sorry to interrupt the debate. I would like the participant to turn on their video cam.
To see your chat box, I'll be posting the time prompts there. Please make sure. I'll also be fact checking everything that you guys say, and I'll be asking for sources. So please be ready to provide them to me if necessary. Right? That being said, opposition first speaker, please open your case.
Good evening, everyone. I am M. Matilaj, and I am the first speaker of Team Opposition. So, before we move on to saying whether providing immunity to drug cartels for their economic crimes is right or not, let's understand the nature of this fight. This is not a fight simply against drug crimes or criminals. This is a fight against health. This is a fight against humanity. This is a fight against the lives of civilians and everyone and their good health, as I mentioned. So, to begin with, whom are we going to be negotiating here? It's not world leaders. It's not civilized diplomats. The people who we are thinking that we are going to speak negotiation with are cutthroat criminals and petty-minded gangsters whose words are totally not acceptable, and it is not very much reliable. Trust is something like a very very expensive gift, and you can't expect it from cheap-minded people. That is, with that being said, they aren't legal entities like MNCs or corporates who you can easily approach. They can like one day if you approach, they have a whole meth lab set up and everybody is working, and then the next day it is just a damp warehouse. So they can atomize and then come together based on the environment. And if we proceed with the agenda of team proposition, we would result in all the criminals, not just drug cartels, all the criminals indulged in women trafficking and child trafficking, they would come ahead and ask the same immunity after killing innocent civilians or police. So they would ask the same treatment. With that being said, I would like to rest my speech and then move on. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Speaker. I now look to the proposition second speaker to continue their case.
Good evening, everybody present here today. My name is Anita, and I will be speaking as a second speaker for the proposition. So, a report released by the Secretariat of Public Security showed that there were around 34,582 murders last year alone. That's 2019, a 2.5% increase from 2018. It was the highest rate since 1997, the first year for which there is even an official record available. The 2019 rate equals an average of 95 murders per day in Mexico, a country that has been plagued with violence since 2006, when the government deployed a military to wage the so-called war on drugs. The war on drugs is simply a huge failure, with devastating unintended consequences. It has led to mass incarceration in Mexico, corruption, political destabilization, and violence, to systematic human rights abuses. All of this while we waste billions of dollars each year. Mexico has spent at least 54 billion on security and defense alone since 2007. Human rights groups have detailed a vast rise in human rights abuses by the security forces, who are under pressure to make arrests, obtain confessions, and justify this war. Reports of torture by the security forces alone increased by 600% between 2003 and 2013. These were the people who were supposed to save the civilians from the drug cartels, but they themselves are causing more harm. And so let's really talk about what are the final effects of this war against the cartels. Under pressure from the authorities, some crime factions have splintered only to regroup and re-emerge as smaller but more often more ruthless and more violent groups. More importantly, a drug war possesses high risks for the population, which can be affected by military operations, or they can be used as shields or hostages by the cartels. One should also consider the fact that a drug cartel will never surrender like a state in a conventional war. Drug cartels are highly fluid and they easily fragment, atomize, and reorganize according to the conditions of the environment. Wars are expected to finish at some point, but as El Chapo has noted, drug traffic will simply never end. The only effect of the war or of an organized crime is to plunge Mexico into a cycle of interminable violence. The Mexican state is simply too weak to further this wage an infinite war against the numerous number of cartels. Efforts by the authorities to curtail their influence have failed largely because of the inability to learn from the lessons of the past. It's high time we move on to an alternative approach, with our top priority being the civilians and the more vulnerable sections of the population. The proposition believes that offering immunity, along with certain other reforms applied with this, such as regulating sales of military-style weapons and the smuggling of these weapons through and across the country, helping the farmers who grow these crops switch to an alternative crop by providing necessary funds, because most of the times these farmers are just too poor or illiterate to get out of this cycle, providing alternative employment opportunities to the populations, and many other such necessary short-term, long-term, and mid-term plans would not only reduce the violence in the region but effectively eliminate the cartel's influence completely. It's necessary to realize that the war on drugs demand relies largely on the principle of supply and demand. So we cannot simply target the demand part with expecting benefits of or even saving the population. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. I now look to the opposition second speaker to continue their case.
Good
Speaker,
evening,
please,
respected.
please go ahead.
Good evening,
Please go ahead.
respected.
Sorry. Please go ahead.
It's okay. Good evening, respected judges and my worthy opponents. I, Archana, hereby humbly express my thanks for your interest showed towards the expressing my views regarding Mexican drug crimes. I'm going to be adding some points to what my teammate had spoken. An important question rises here. With whom are we striking this deal? Educated or civilized person? No, we are dealing with criminals who are immoral and uncivilized. We cannot expect them to stay loyal. Instead of offering immunity to criminals who run drug cartels, Mexican government can focus on setting right their internal dichotomy caused by corrupt officers who take bribes and help the criminals carry out their drug business without trouble. Facts say that certain officers have received millions of dollars as bribe. This gives a very big positive impact on the administrative side to approach the issue effectively. Even according to the proposition's approach, drug trade and use still will continue, and it is seen as one of the worst crimes. Because drug abuse has catastrophic direct effects on the user, such as bad character and bad health, which indirectly affects innocent people, non user, and the entire nation. The bad impact created by the drug has been irreversible in all nations. Drug can change how the brain works and interfere with people's ability to make choices, leading to intense wanting and compulsive drug use. Over time, this behavior can turn into a substance dependency or drug addiction. Today, more than 7 million people suffer from illicit drug disorder, and 1 in 4 deaths results from illicit drug use. Drug cartels, on the other hand, are not fixed in a corporate office like MNC. They are highly fueled. They easily fragment, atomize, and reorganize according to the conditions of the environment. For example, when the drug business was getting out of the control, the Mexican government built fences in San Diego, where most of the drug smuggling took place. The drug smuggler turned to the oceans, underground tunnels, and most commonly the port of the entry. Last year, more than 90% of the drug seizures happened in the port of entry, where millions of car drives into San Diego from Mexico every year. Even after the fences went up, drug kept moving. David Shaw, who is an officer at Homeland Security Investigation, says cartel operate like a business. If you put up one wall, they find a way to get around it. El Chapo, the leader of the most powerful cartel in Mexico, Sinaloa cartel, has noted that drug traffic will never end. But the team opposition believes that his statement will be proven false by implementing solutions that will be concluded at the end of the debate on which we all come to consensus upon. I conclude my speech by saying this is not an ordinary case. This is a case where division causes multiplication. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. We'll be moving on to the second round, which is the parlay round. Let's just look at the format one more time. In this round, two participants, one from team proposition and one from team opposition, will come out and have a conversation amongst them. That being said, are the speakers ready? Speakers?
Yeah.
The time starts now.
Okay. So, shall I begin?
Yes, Speaker, please go ahead.
Okay. Now, the thing is that according to the opposition, they just stated that you cannot be doing a trade with someone you can't trust. Agreed. But from the past 14 years, we have been trying to curb this by applying brute force, which has led to the death of a large amount of people. Year in and year out, civilians, innocent people have been losing their lives repetitively. Now, my question remains that how can you, if you are saying that this proposition isn't to help, if you're saying that brute force is to help, you're saying that, according to, I think, one of the opposition members, they said that trust, we can't be trusting them. They, if we give them a certain chance right now or give them an immunity right now, which is specifically given as immunity to economic crimes alone. If we are saying this, them other people, other traffickers will come and ask for immunity. But sir, if we are not able to curb this particular issue with other solutions, mainly by brute force, this is another mechanism. From past 14 years, we have been using mechanism, a principle and similar approaches. This is mending your principle a little and using a different approach so that you don't compromise with lives. You want peace in the country. Also, to make sure that somehow or the other we have some control over these cartels, which we don't have right now.
Debater.
Yeah.
Sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt. May I get this clear? So, just as a metaphor, are you trying to say that take the soldiers from the war and put them into concentration camps just so that they don't die because of the war? Is that something similar to what you're trying
Perfect,
to say?
sir. Okay, so then you have just brought in another point. If you're talking about soldiers, sir, I'm not talking about the context that you just mentioned. I'm just giving you something about the
No,
military.
it was more of a
security
metaphor.
service.
I didn't mean your police force or military force. It was just a metaphor.
Okay, I got it. Now, another point that I was coming to is what you've stated, sir. Money for security forces is around $54 billion, which has been spent by Mexico to fight against the drug cartels to serve people. Now, this 54 billion could have been used for people's education, for providing them with other opportunities for employment. Because if you're saying that there are a lot of people under drug cartels who are influenced, there are some who are under this because they have no choice. They are people who have no other employment opportunities. Now, to suddenly stop the drug cartels.
Sorry to disturb.
Yeah.
Not some facts say that only 0.25% of Mexico's population is in the drug business, whereas 99.75% are not directly in the business, but their households get the income from that. So are you trying to say that compromise the 99.75% of the population just for the threats given by the 0.25% of the population?
No. Again, sir, the topic is we provide them immunity against economic crimes so that they do not harm the civilians, the police officers, and the military. Now, if you're coming to the point saying that yes, drug will be available, sir, it's a bitter truth, but it's the truth that a world free of drugs is not possible. And if you're saying that by running, if you're saying that, one second. If you're saying that running your moral values by using the moral values or common sense, as you say, that if you're using that and you're running your principles to reach a conclusion rather than our proposition, sir, a country with principles and a country with moral values and no people and common sense would not actually matter. If you understand my point.
Okay, since you say using brute force was a big failure, as you stated. So police brutality or
no. I have not said it. Okay, I've got your point. I'm just clearing that I have not said that it's the biggest failure. It has had failing aspects. I'm not saying it's the biggest failure.
Whatever. Since you said it wasn't a success. Whatever it is, it wasn't a success. So whose mistake is that? It's the government's fault. So you have allies. Think out of the box. Mexico has allies like Russia, and then India has stated in some facts. So they have very good military, very good administration powers. And as my teammate said, internal dichotomy is another thing that is pulling down Mexico. So why not use your allies? Why not get the help from your allies and then train your police force, train your military force, give them more strength and power, give them grade A training, and then approach it do it once more again.
Okay, sir. Now the thing again, it goes saying that people. Can I just complete just by one sentence, please? Will that be okay? Hello. Am I audible? Can I just complete with just a sentence, please?
Just 1 second. We'll ask the adjudicator if he wants to continue the round, and then we'll be allowed to.
Yeah, cool.
Sir?
I would just like to say that stay relevant to the topic, and yes, you can take a little bit of extra time.
Right, sir. Speakers, you'll be given an addition of 2 minutes. Please make your statements. Please stick to the topic.
Okay, so now the thing is that according to the opposition, he just mentioned that the brute force, I had stated that it's complete by using the brute force from past 14 years, it has been completely unsuccessful. No, that's not what I've mentioned. Yes, they have been able to catch a lot of drug lords, but it has to be noted that these drug cartels dismantle into smaller groups, and because you're angering them, they become even more brutal and ruthless. And to be noted, to attack, they eventually are angered by the government, right? So they do not attack the government directly, they attack through proxy, and the proxy is the innocent civilians. Civilians are losing their lives, sir. So are you telling me that we do the same mistake that we have done in the past? As in, yes, all that you have done is understandable, but the mistake remains the same as loss of lives. So you're saying that we
Okay,
should put
okay.
it the
Then
same.
let's think about it from another angle. Like the main problem-causing factor here is drugs. Drugs is what all these chaos is going on for. So why not legalize, organic drugs like marijuana and opium? It has shown very good effects on other countries, and in Mexico, it is one of the biggest problems. So face legalization, and it has reduced opioid use, and then I'm not
Debaters,
saying
please
everyone.
stick to the topic. Please stick to the topic.
Yeah. So, as the adjudicator had mentioned now, so if we legalize drugs, like not all drugs, but organic drugs, like drugs from plants, so that opioid use gets very much minimized, and then the drug cartels, they will have no other go. They won't be able to find their customers because the government is supplying it to them. And if you are saying people will get more addicted and their health will be ruined, instead introduce rehabilitation centers, and then stuff like that, like use marijuana and opium for medical purposes with a prescription.
Thank you,
Okay,
speakers. We've come to the end of the 2 minutes. We've come to the end of a very heated parley round. Let's move on to the next round, which will be the rebuttal round. Let's go over the format once for the benefit of the audience who are watching live. The rebuttal round is a classic rebuttal round. Here, the proposition speaker will present their rebuttals, followed by the opposition speaker. They will be given 3 minutes to present their rebuttals. Please note, participants, that the speaker who presented the parley round cannot present the rebuttal round. That being said, speaker, proposition rebuttal speaker, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Can I start now?
Floor is yours.
Okay. So the opposition brought about a point about how do we trust these drug cartels. I actually want to bring about one instance. So by the 1970s and 80s, the Mexican drug cartels had entered into an informal alliance with the government. So as long as they abided by a set of rules that the government had set, such as heavy taxes on this import, storage, processing of drugs, the drug cartels in turn would curb their violence against the civilians, assassination of the authorities, and refrain from selling drugs to the minors. And the drug cartels in return would get protection from local police, military commanders, governors, etc. During this time, although not completely regulated, the cartels were dependent on the government, and hence there was some sort of transparency and control. But along the 1980s, there was involvement of the American government, and this appeasement, I could say, came to an end, and a more military-style approach was taken. And that decade specifically recorded the highest rate of homicide that the century had seen up until that point. And ever since then, we can see that the more brute force that the government tried attacking on the drug cartels, the more violent they become. And another thing that the proposition we're talking about were the impact of drugs. Talking about legalization, though it's a little out of topic, I want to bring up here is that there's a heavy reliance on supply and demand. We can't just all of a sudden make things. The path to legalization would take a lot of time. We would have to put into effect principles like harm reduction, which have been shown very successful. But all that would be a long path towards that. We have to slowly be able to get the cartels under the control of the government, and for that the government itself has to go under a deep cleanse, as there's a lot of corruption within the government, such as money laundering and bribery. So having this transparency deal would in fact reduce that, I believe. Other than that, um, we've seen around 40 years of fighting against the war on drugs, and what it really does is bulldozes human rights, costs vast sum of money. And we also really need to remember the fact that drug is not a price dependent material. So even if we try blocking off these root supplies, you are only making the cartels more and more powerful. There has to be a systematic method, and that's what the proposition proposes, is that we go around this whole entire methodology in a more effective way rather than just resorting to brute force, which has proven to be very costly for the Mexican population. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. I now look to the opposition speaker to present their rebuttals.
Okay, instead of taking chance of trusting criminals, we can legalize organic drug, like my teammates said. Moreover, there are 26 active cartels in Mexico. It's totally impossible to bind them all. Legalization helps to reduce the number of people involved in illegal activities related to marijuana production, distribution, and use. And when Washington state legalized marijuana for recreational use in 2013, the number of low level code felons for marijuana fell by 98% between 2012 and 13. The number of adults over 21 convicted for marijuana possession fell from 297 in January to 0 in January 2013 and has remained there since. Meanwhile, the number of those who under 21 convicted for possession fell by about 50% between 2012 and 13. From this evidence, it is clear that legalization eliminates illegal production, distribution, and sale of marijuana tends to diminish dramatically. A 2014 study found that the introduction of legalization in a state was associated with a reduction in violent crimes such as rape, robbery, assault, etc. Moreover, like we can also Mexican can also develop in agriculture sector. Like as far as Mexico GDP, agriculture only accounts for a very small percentage. Well, Mexico is can be very successful in agriculture, and Mexico is the 12th largest exporter in the world, and Mexico has really good minerals rich country. Mexico mining sector is among the top 10 world producer for at least 16 minerals. Mexico ranks globally first largest producer of silver and top 5 producer in zinc, copper, gold, etc. And there are also many rehabilitation centers available in Mexico. Narcon and drug rehabilitation has been long available in Mexico to help the people from the drug addiction. Post legalization, drug rehabilitation centers can be set up to effectively deal with serious addiction addicts. Surprisingly, not all of Mexico into drug business. It is only 0.25 percentage of Mexico population that is directly into drug business. So I conclude my speech by asking, do you want to compromise the lives of 99.75 percentage innocent civilians for the 0.25 percentage? Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Let's move final round, which will be the closing statements. Right? Each speaker will be given 1.5 minutes to present their closing statements. In this round, the opposition presents their closing remarks first, followed by the proposition. All right. I now look to the opposition speaker to close their case.
Sure. So we have mentioned all that we want to say in the closing statement prior in the course of the debate, just like introducing de-addiction centers and then increasing economic viability, that is discussing with UNO, and then raise the price of procurement of naturally produced drugs, and then decriminalize the usage of organic drugs such as marijuana, and advocate the international policy to legalize marijuana products. And I would like to conclude by saying that to Mexico, which is a very rich country, like they have very good resources in that sense, very wealthy country. I would like to say know your worth and then use your worth instead of caving into just the threats of criminals. So I'd like to rest my closing statement. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Speaker. I now look to the proposition to conclude their case.
Okay. The Mexican history has shown that the government, cartels, and economy are inextricably intertwined. In order to free this Mexico from the chains of corruption, it will take a new generation of untainted youth and a more holistic and multilateral approach to take the helm of the government. Mexican citizens have the responsibility to organize in order to struggle against the corruption and struggle for individual rights. On the other side of the border, it will require a new generation of global citizens untainted by drugs to destroy the power of drug cartels. As long as there is high demand, cartels will continue to rake in substantial profits, used to perpetuate the cycle of violence. Corruption authorities would benefit from thinking outside the box, taking a multifaceted offensive to weaken the cartels. This is why it is essential for the authorities to understand how and why Mexico cartel influence has become so powerful. Understanding this is the first step to reversing and countering their influence. We have tried to propose solutions for countering cartel influence in the government, journalism, entertainment, society, and culture based on their history and present day impacts as well. These solutions, only once implemented together, bring a holistic approach to the drug cartel dilemma capable of making definitive progress. Mistakes of the past should not be repeated. With the amount of daily damage caused by cartel influence worldwide, it would be optimal to seize every moment in the reduction of Mexico cartel influence. And I rest my conclusion.
Thank you, Speaker. With that, we come to the end of today's debate. Thank you all for participating in this debate. Thank you for the viewers for staying back and watching.